Robert Plank Show, episode 192. Create fearlessly. Get a high converting website for your business with Stephen Christopher. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. Our guest today is Stephen Christopher, and he's the founder of Sequest Digital Marketing, which is a web marketing firm designed to help business owners achieve results they never thought were possible. Before starting Sequest, Stephen started and ran several other award-winning businesses. Can't wait to talk about that. Mr. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you having me on today and everybody hanging out with us.
I think that all of us hanging out together is going to be a lot of fun. And so I'm excited to talk with you about a couple things about your sort of your ups and downs as far as you know building your web presence, building this business. But the main focus I want to talk about is your website, your agency, Sequest Digital Marketing. So can you tell us about Sequest and what makes you guys stand out?
Yeah, I mean, we can do a whole show on kind of why I feel that we do things that make us stand out. But Sequus it is not a full service digital marketing agency, and I mean that alone is something that we spent a lot of time figuring out. Are we full service? Are we not? We kind of acted full service, but really we didn't like to do everything, and so we got real clear on what things we were amazing at and great at and love to do, and then we continued to get better at those, and then we got rid of stuff that we didn't like to do or just wasn't we just weren't fantastic at. Um, and and then we outsourced all that stuff or found referral partners for it. So Sequus itself is an organic search firm. We do SEO. We also do pay-per-click, whether through Google AdWords, Bing, or social media paid, and also web design and development. Those are our three core products that we do. And then we do branding, social media marketing, and email marketing, but only if it supports a client in one of those three core businesses. So a lot of those things we don't offer as standalone services. Just that clarity around what it is that we do is one of the things that makes us stand out from our competition, because we only do things we're great at. So that way we can create raving fans instead of halfway pleased customers.
Right, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, and so that way you guys can focus on just one part of it, on what excites you guys. And so am I understanding you correctly? So that you said that you guys focus on the organic search, the pay per click, and the web design, and then those other. So then the other stuff you mentioned, like the branding and the email marketing, the social media, are those the things that you say that you can still provide, but are optional, and the things that you outsource? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So, perfect example. Let's say that somebody came to us and said, "Hey, I just want to rebrand my company," and but they're really not a potential SEO client or web design or pay-per-click client, or they just don't need any of those services. We would not take them on as a client. So we wouldn't do just a branding campaign. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, but the business reason is because our core services that really drive our revenue and the way we built our business to be successful, SEO, pay per click, and web design, if they're not a possible for one of those, or if they're not interested or already currently doing that with us, then we're not going to do those ancillary services for them because it's just not an ideal fit.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. So can you, just to make sure that I'm getting it and that we're all getting it, can you kind of walk us through a case study of one of the clients that came to you, and maybe their business was at point A, and then you and your team worked your magic and got them to point B?
Yeah, sure. Cool. One that I was actually just talking to an account manager about this morning. It's a plumbing company in Brooklyn, Petrie Plumbing, been in business for over 100 years. I mean, they just have this great story. And when they came to us originally for SEO, and that was really it. They were kind of happy with their current SEO company, but they knew that there was things that were missing, and they knew they could do better. So they came to us for SEO, and we did a good job for SEO, and then it was time to redo their website, and then they realized, well, it's time to kind of rebrand our company too. And so we ended up doing pretty much, actually now we do everything for them. But they had this they had this great story and this great company. I mean, come on, in business for over 100 years, like that's crazy. So they had this really great brand, but nobody really knew about it, and it wasn't really stated, and it wasn't really used to their benefit to accomplish their business goals. So we took that, wrapped it all together, asked them a ton of questions about it, and ended up rebranding them, giving them a much more clear, concise statement that we can talk to customers about who they are, building trust. Redid their logo, redid a bunch of their other branding. They rewrapped all their trucks with the new logo, and like just tied everything together. And now, I mean, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for what we've done, but I mean, I know like the first year that they were with us, their organic traffic increased over 100% in that first year. And I think now they've been with us for about 2 or 3 years. And I don't know, we're up consistently 20, 30% year over year.
Crazy. And I mean, I'm looking at the petryplumbing.com website right now, and I'm seeing like you have like a phone number on top, and you have like an opt-in form to schedule an appointment, and you have there are like, blog posts and stuff like that. And so I mean, was this all you? Like, what did they have exactly set up as far as like their website and their SEO presence and stuff?
So before us, take everything that you see and then just get rid of it, and that's what was there, which is nothing. It was a website. They didn't have any way for people to interact in different ways. So, like when we build websites, this is where we start. We start with what is the top 1 to 3 objectives that you want to accomplish when somebody comes to your site? And specific for Petri, they want number one, a phone call. Number two, they want somebody to request service online. And number three is going to be to gather at least some sort of contact information in exchange for something of value for somebody that's maybe not ready to buy. So we have somebody that's immediately ready that they can call, hey, my toilet's busted and my house is flooding. Got it. You're probably gonna call. To somebody that has, let's say, something that's not emergency, and maybe they're at work so they can't call, so they're going to fill out that request service online form, which by design is very, very short. It doesn't ask a lot of questions. We don't ask for a lot of personal information. That's on purpose. And then if somebody's like, I don't really need anything right this second, or maybe I'll put it on my to-do list and get back to it this weekend, we have the ability for them to enter their email address and get access to hundreds of dollars of money-saving coupons. So all within the homepage of the site, we tell the brand story, we build trust with the customer or potential customer, and then we give them several different options of things to do, so that they're more likely to take at least some form of action immediately.
And the way that you lay that out makes a lot of sense because it took me like a few years to sort of get a handle on this new type of website that's, it's not quite a blog, it's not quite a sales letter, it's not quite an optiformer. It kind of has all the above, and I really like the way that you lay that out, where there's like those three things. And so, and like an even simpler way of thinking about it is like there's the hot leads, the warm leads, and the cold leads, right? The hot ones, they want to call the number right now. The toilet's busted, the water heater's broke, whatever. The warm people, they're curious, but they're doing the research. And the cold people, like, they might be warmed up at some point, but they're just there to get that opt-in. And so, is that sort of the way that you look at any sort of website that you're making something for, where you just kind of look at like those three people, or is it ever just like one or two? Or, I mean, what's the usual mindset there?
Yeah, it all depends on what the client's objective is. That's how we look at everything, and that's really one of the things that makes us different from every other agency. Is there's no cookie cutter to what we do, and it's all about what is the client's true objectives. And we've gotten really good at asking questions to really figure out what the objective is. A lot of people initially will say something like, hey, I just need to get more traffic to our site. Well, that's not really your objective. When you ask a lot more qualifying questions, your objective is you want to make more money so that you can support your family and provide a good life for them. And when we really start to get clarity on what those big objectives are, then we can start backing out and saying, okay, for the Petri example, those were our three primary things that we wanted, just like you said, hot, warm, and cold type leads. But we look at Looking at another site we built, I don't know, are you familiar with the book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
No.
Okay. So we built his site, and so he's an author, and he has now it's turning into a series of books, but he has one book, and or he started with one primary book, and so our objectives are a little bit different. We don't have three things that we want people to do. We don't want people calling and emailing them. We want people going through a process, not quite a funnel, because I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of that word, but we want people getting in touch with him in a different way and associating with the book and learning, and he wants to add value to them. Um, so it's that one's set up a little bit different.
Okay, but even like looking at Hal's website, I mean, maybe it might be stretching a little bit, but you could almost look at his website as those three types of people, because I look at it and there's an opt-in form sort of in the middle of the folds. There's a link to get the book, and then on the bottom there's like his blog posts and his speaking engagement. So in a way, you could look at it as, well, there's someone who like wants the book right now, someone who just wants a freebie, and someone who just wants more information. So even, I mean, like I said, it might be sort of stretching it, but as you explained it before, like there's those three objectives, and I'm looking at the plumber and then now the author site. I'm seeing those similarities. Whereas before looking at it from that mindset, I might have just thought it was just a whole mess of things, right? I might have thought, well, there's the opt-in, there's the book, but now that I'm sort of seeing it as what do you want people to do? It's making more sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, you're 100% right. There definitely are similarities to both of those. I just want to make sure people understand that even though those similarities are there, we get there by asking that objective question. So it will be different sometimes, just based on what are their real objectives. And I think so few marketing companies, unfortunately, take the time to really understand that about their clients.
And so I mean, and I don't want you to maybe I don't want you to talk trash about anyone, but you've come across clients who have maybe not had a good experience with SEO agencies before, right?
Yeah,
And
all the
s-
time.
and so I mean, like, are you seeing any sort of like commonalities? Like when you see all these different businesses like have a bad experience, are you seeing like the same mistake being made by either the client themselves or by the agency helping them like over and over again?
Yeah, so that's how we kind of designed Sequus, was around those things that we were hearing in the industry and hearing from our clients that had been with a previous firm. And here's a couple things that are kind of top of mind for us that other agencies aren't doing well. And I'll preface it with this. There's a lot of great companies out there, or at least a lot of companies that understand how SEO works and pay-per-click and development. They understand how it works, and they're actually really good at it. The problem is they don't know how to scale. They don't know how to do it consistently. They don't know how to train their team. Like the owner will start it and do a great job, but maybe they're just not good business owners. So there's a lot of people out there that really truly understand SEO. They're just really not good business owners, and they shouldn't try to scale an agency. So the things that we see consistently is customer service and communication is one of the top ones all the time. You know, you'll have a small company that will do really well for a couple clients. Maybe it's even just one person running the agency. They'll do well for a couple clients. They get a couple more clients. They start to get busy, and the communication suffers. And customers hate that. I mean, they're spending thousands of dollars a month, and they're not getting communication, either one, proactively, or two, they get to the point where it takes 2 days or 3 days to get an email back. And then when they finally get an email back, it's like, hey, sorry I didn't get to you earlier. Like, the sorry is only good for, I don't know, and one or two times, in my opinion. When you start every email, or every email you're getting consistently, it starts with, hey, sorry, been really busy. It's like, look, I don't care if you're busy or not. I'm still paying you the same amount of money.
Right.
So that communication piece is huge. And so that's one thing that we really put a lot of emphasis on, um, is proactively communicating. So now what we do is we proactively communicate every time we touch a client site, every time we do something for SEO. And we've built it into our system so that clients get a lot of communication every month. Um, and we found it to work really well. Like for the most part, if I call a client, um, or one of our account managers calls one of their clients, one of the first things they always say is like, "Hey, sorry, I've gotten all your emails. I appreciate everything you're doing for us. Sorry, I haven't been very responsive." Like, how cool is that? That now our client is apologizing to us a lot for not being responsive, and they're saying thanks for all the work that we're doing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, if if you're listening to this and you run an agency, like just do that, and it'll fix, I don't know, 70% of your problems most likely, if you have decent service or
Oh,
results.
oh yeah, and I mean, I think that a lot of us can relate to that. Even on something like a small scale, like even if we've hired freelancers before and people like that. I mean, that's usually the stereotype, right? The stereotype is that even though I paid the money, I get put on the back burner, and then they miss a deadline, and then they're scrambling to make up for it after the fact and putting out the fires. And it seems like a really common trap a lot of like workers of any kind fall into, where they just kind of let things slide. And so what you're saying is the answer is to have a good system, have a checklist. That way you're not just kind of making it up every time, and then to proactively communicate every time you make a change, so that way it almost kind of flips the script, and now it's like the person hiring you is the one who's not communicating enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And people love it. I mean, it just feels good. And I don't claim to be, I don't claim that Sequus is like the best SEO company in the entire world, right? I mean, we do really good. We beat, all of the people we take clients from, we crush their results. But I'm sure there's people out there that are way smarter than us. Like, if any of them are listening and want a job, come on over. But uh, I know there's SEO companies out there that are smarter than we are. But I can guarantee you that for a small increase in results, but a big decrease in the amount of communication in the relationship building, that none of our clients would ever leave for that. So even if they got like a 5% gain in organic traffic, but they went somewhere where it was hard to get a hold of them and they didn't really always know what was going on, they would never leave. People just won't leave for that. Like, this is still a people to people world that we're living in.
Yeah, and I mean that makes a lot of sense to me. And even like if I've hired someone as even just like a freelancer, even someone creating content for me, or making a transcript, or doing any kind of like graphics work or whatever. I mean, same kind of deal. Like if I had to make a choice between someone who was pretty good, and but they delivered on time, they were communicated, as opposed to someone who was a super genius, but I wasn't sure what I would be getting depending on what week it was. I'd for sure choose the more reliable, more consistent choice in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for anybody listening, like, take this to heart. I promise it's true. This is the second digital agency that I've started, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this is I've proven that it works, based on not doing it the right way the first time.
Well, and I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because, like, so it's easy to say, that you got to the what you've built now, and you have Sequest now, and it's this impressive thing. But we mentioned at the beginning of this call that you've had some sort of trials and tribulations, and it wasn't all easy. So can you kind of tell us about what your journey on that was?
Yeah, the somewhat shortest version of it is, I started my first real business in about 2005, and it was a mortgage company. I had a full-time job. I hated it. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody else. So I ended up being able to get into a startup mortgage company. And back then, hey, money was pretty easy to come by if you were that in that industry, and we were doing pretty well. And I was kind of thinking like, man, this business stuff is pretty easy. I don't know what some of these guys are complaining about when they say, it's hard being a business owner and all that. Well, along comes 2008, mortgage industry crashes, and I got left with about just over $100,000 in debt, all tied to me personally, and no income. Took a job making like 20 grand a year, uh, and just slowly started to rebuild myself. Well, one of the skills I had learned when I owned my mortgage company was digital marketing, because we heavily relied on internet for our lead gen. Well, I had a couple of people that I ended up running into that owned businesses, and they're like, "Hey, you were pretty good at that digital marketing stuff, or SEO. Can you do it for us?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, anything to make a couple $100." So I think my first client was like $300 a month that I just did on the side. Ended up having a friend who was in a similar situation and wanted to own a business, so we went in as 50-50 partners and started our first agency in 2009 and grew that. We won fastest growing company in Colorado twice, first place one year and second place the next year. And we ended up having different versions of what you do when you start to become successful. My version was you work harder, you spend more time at the company, and you grow it, and you reinvest a lot of the money back into the company to grow it. And anyway, you can figure out that was my version, and obviously it didn't work out with the partnership. So his was, he wanted something a little bit different. Over the course of a few months, I tried to buy him out. Sorry about that. Over the course of a couple months, tried to buy him out, and that didn't really work. And so I ended up selling to him kind of at the last minute before the company wasn't doing too well because, you know, I had not been focused on growing it. No non-compete, started Sequus the next day. That was 2014. And, our first full year in business, 2015, I did better. I outperformed my last company after, 5 years in business.
Awesome. And
So
lots of ups and downs there. And I mean, what do you think was the big lesson there? I mean, do you think it was a matter of like, you had a couple of hangups so that you it kind of humbled you and it kind of drove you to do better, or do you think that that you got all the mistakes or all the bugs worked out on the first go around so that you knew like what contracts to have in place? I mean, what do you think was the big takeaway from that whole process?
I got a lot of takeaways from that. I got one takeaway is, one, this isn't super easy. Don't take anything for granted, even something that's going really well. Make sure that you're paying attention to it. Be super, super persistent. Never give up. Like, there is a way to make whatever you want happen. It's just whatever you're doing right now might not be the right way. So if you fail, you need to get a different perspective on things. And then more specifically for the digital marketing side of things, yeah. So when I sat down the day after I sold my half of the company to my old business partner, I was like, okay, now I gotta start a business, or I gotta start all over again. And I took about a week or two and just looked at all the things that weren't quite right at my previous company and said, okay, cool. This is a really good opportunity to change those from the very beginning, because there was things that I wanted to do differently that it just would have taken a lot of work. It's hard to turn a ship that's a little bit bigger and has a lot more people on board. And I didn't really have the support and the help that I needed in that company. So I took, the communication piece was a really big one that I had heard clients say. They're like, well, I don't know exactly what you're doing, or when should I expect something? And we didn't have procedures for that. So I started building in all of those things that I wanted to change in my past company, and built those in from the ground floor up.
And I mean, what's your advice if someone's trying to figure out like when do I maybe give up, or when do I change direction, or when do I throw out something that I have in order to build something better? I mean, do you have any sort of like a, I don't know, like a self test, or like some questions you ask yourself, or how does somebody know if if their dream or whatever hasn't taken off yet? How do they know if they should keep going on that course or if they should change directions?
Oh, that's an awesome question. I don't think I've ever actually been asked that before. So let me try to distill some of that a little bit from my experiences. So with the mortgage company, I hung on too long. With the agency, I hung on too. With the first agency, I hung on too long, but way shorter than my previous experience. And I'd say, like, if I had to think back of a test, here's what I would say is figure out what it is that you really want. What are your goals? Not like how much revenue or how big of a company or how many clients. Like, what are you really doing? I mean, I refer to it as your why. Like, where are you going in life? And then look at these things through that filter and say, all right, is this on the way to accomplishing that? Yes or no? And you got to be really honest with yourself, because sometimes you can be doing something that has potential to work, but it's incongruent with who you are and what you're really trying to become. And so even though it could work and, make money or help clients or whatever, if it's incongruent with who you are and where you're really trying to go, you might become financially successful for a little while, but you're going to be miserable. And so you're better off paying really close attention to that right now, as opposed to spending a ton of time on it just for I don't know, I guess the money or whatever you define that part of the success for. Um, that's something that I've become a lot clearer about. Like, I'll turn down big, like really big, giant potential projects if I'm just like, that doesn't feel right. Like, it's not in alignment with our company values or our company goals, even though it's a lot of money, it's just not going to be good. And that wasn't always the case. And it seems like when I look back on that, every time I pushed too hard for something that I just knew deep down wasn't really right, it generally never ended up working out well for us.
That makes a lot of sense, and even the way that you're describing that, it sounds like that. If this iteration in your business, if you had taken every single job that came your way, if you weren't like somewhat picky about it, then it sounds like that would just lead to building like a beast that you hate, building almost another job. And so, could you sort of explain to us, like you mentioned, like some of these company values, and that people should have a really good reason why? Could you tell us a little bit about your values and your reason why, and sort of what you compare these different projects to, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you two of our company values that stand out for this conversation. Client success is not optional, and that's really just this internal cultural thing of when companies will, like, let's say somebody hires us for SEO and that's really it, but yet then they ask us questions about like their email or something that we don't really do. Well, a lot of companies will just immediately say, or a lot of account managers just say, oh yeah, like, we don't do that. We're not built like that. So we're built to um, try to provide as much guidance as we can for our clients, because their success, not just within what we're doing, but their overall success is not optional to us. So if we can ever do anything to help them achieve their goals, we will. Now, I'm not saying that we need to take on an IT type project like switching email. We've done that in the past and it didn't work out very well. I mean, yeah, let's just say we don't do that. But now just offering them a little bit of advice or sending them to a referral partner or something like that, their success is not optional to us. And then from an SEO standpoint and pay per click and the services we do offer, it gets us to ask better questions when we kind of hit a brick wall, or we're like, geez, I don't know why what we're doing isn't working the way we think it should. Instead of just kind of throwing your hands up in the air, it's like, all right, well, let's find a different way. Um, Something we say around here a lot is there is a way, and I'm open to finding it, as opposed to, yeah, there's no way to do this. And then another one, actually, so a third company value that I wasn't going to mention is ask a better question, which is kind of in line with what I was just talking about. And then the other company value is we're a team. Now, there's an expletive in there that I won't say on the show, but that expletive is literally pasted on our company. It's all over our company values, it's on our walls. And we really take that to heart. And that means that, you know, we have a lot of different moving pieces within our company. We have account managers and developers and designers, and it doesn't matter what your job description is. We're a team here. If somebody needs help, then everybody will do whatever it takes to help them, whether it's a personal issue, a business issue. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And that's a big one for us. And we really take it to heart. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies write that on their wall, but you walk in and you can just tell, like, they're not a team.
Right. And you know, a lot of what I'm hearing from you today, like as far as this core value stuff, and even like your your mistakes and your successes in your entrepreneurial journey, it sounds like a lot of what's helped is just kind of the looking back and the course correction, and figuring out what are like the couple or the handful of like rules or do's and don'ts so that you don't repeat your mistakes. And it also sounds like when you guys figure out or when you have figured out these sayings, like the we're a team, or client success is not optional. These are things that have come about because of past mistakes, and they're not just made up sayings or things like that, because if they were just cute clever sayings that you made up, well, they would be meaningless. But because they came about from the bumps in the road, then now they're simple, and they're important reminders, and they're things that it sounds like you guys take pretty seriously.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, yeah, pretty much everything came out of past experience of some sort of failure or learning experience that I've had or that we've had as a company, and we do take them seriously. I mean, we even have so if you don't have company values or core values, whatever you want to call them, I recommend that you create them, and don't just create them yourself as an owner or as a manager. We co-created ours even when we were small. I mean, I think we did our first iteration when we were like 3 or 4 people, and we're kind of constantly co-creating and refining so that we get buy-in from everybody that's new or hasn't been with the company for that long, and then act consistently to reinforce those. So we have little cards. Uh, we have 5 different cards, like a postcard size, and each postcard has one of the company core values on it, and then it's got some blanks. And so anytime somebody sees somebody display an action that's in alignment with one of those company values, they'll go grab a little postcard and write a note to that person like, hey, Josh, you did this, and it was really in alignment with client success is not optional. Like, really cool, great job. And they throw it on their desk. And I mean, just like, how cool is that? It just feels good to be recognized for something. And so we're always talking about our values too.
Awesome, man. I mean, it sounds like you said like a good way to stay consistent and reinforce that, and it sounds like a good way to avoid that stagnating or that plateauing or that backsliding. And so that seems like just really good advice in general. And so, as we're sort of winding down this call, I mean, can you tell us about your website and like about Sequus.com, and any other place you want to send people?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know anything more about what we do and who we are, you can visit the site sequus.com, sequus.com. We have kind of a cool like instant website evaluator on there. So if you want to run your website through it for any reason, feel free to do so. It'll give you some cool insights of like things you're doing good, things that could be improved on, stuff like that. Um, the if you want to connect, like as you can tell, Robert, I love talking about this stuff, about either digital marketing specific or just business and entrepreneurship. I do run a podcast myself for entrepreneurs, and we have a Facebook group, and that's probably the best way to have a conversation with me if you're interested. To get there, the podcast name is Business Revolution. Website is bizrevolution.com, and then just throw a / Facebook on the end of that. So bizrevolution.com / Facebook. That'll throw you right into the Facebook group. We got all kinds of cool people in there, but I love talking with people about business. Um, yeah.
Awesome, and it shows too. So everyone who's listening to the podcast right now, you should check out Sequus. That's seequs.com, and then check out the podcast at bizrevolution.com. And even if you're one of those cold leads we're talking about, or if you're a warm lead, or if you're a hot lead, go to bizrevolution.com/Facebook. That way you connect in all those channels. So Stephen, I mean, it sounds like we had a great conversation, lots of insights, lots of breakthroughs, and I want to thank you so much for stopping by the show today.
Awesome, Robert. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to listen and hang out with us.
Try this. Just try it, and you can say goodbye to WordPress anxiety forever. WordPress is an amazing tool for running your website, but the problem is that your site and your plugins can go out of date. Many websites are hacked every single hour due to out of date sites and plugins. Don't become another statistic. Do the right thing and install Website Remote on your websites. That way, your sites will never go out of date again. They'll never be broken by automatic updates, and you'll always have control over those websites in one location. Go to websiteremote.com/trial to get your access